Another night and another Pittsburgh Pirates loss. This one an 8-5 loss to the St. Louis Cardinals as the Pirates trek now to a series against the Atlanta Braves. Once again on the losing note, the Pirates now 17-25 on the year, while the Cardinals advance to 25-18, continue their lead in the division. This is a Pirates edition of Pittsburgh Postgame here on Pittsburgh Sports Live. I'm your host, as always, Mike Asti, and we now return with some Pirates talk here after Pirate games. The Penguins off, of course, the middle of that first-round series against the Islanders. So it gives us an opportunity to recap what seemed like a 6-hour game, but nonetheless, it ends up finishing out with a loss to the Cardinals 8-5. Polanco, a couple hits. He hits a dinger. Cahill doesn't even get past one. Once again struggles, and maybe even some news about Ke'Bryan Hayes finally returning we're going to get to. Again, Mike Asti and I will be joined by Pittsburgh Post-Gazette's Mike Persak, one of our familiar guests here on the Pirates edition of this postgame show. But before we get there, Mike, surprise, surprise, we once again, another day, another Pirates loss, and another day that ends in Y seems to be another no-hitter in Major League Baseball. Back-to-back nights, to be exact, and the first time that occurs in, I believe, around 50 years or so. I think late 60s is the last time, 1968. Corey Kluber ends up being the latest victor of the no-hitter, this one for the New York Yankees. Several teams in Major League Baseball this year have actually been no-hit twice, and we are not even through May. We have 6 no-hitters, 7 if you count Bumgarner, that many do, even though Major League Baseball does not want to. Really, a no-hitter when I was growing up was such a rarity. It was such a big deal. It was covered and talked about for days on end and was a special thing you would see once a season, once every several seasons. You didn't need to care about the team. You were just fixated on that moment because of how big of a deal it was. And mostly it was elite pitchers completing those no-hitters. Yes, every now and then an average pitcher would flirt with a no-hitter or would complete a no-hitter, but it was mostly the elite pitchers completing the no-no or even the perfect game. And there was a while where we didn't see one at all. Now we're seeing one every other day, and that's quite literally. There's been back-to-back nights, actually, with a no-hitter. We've talked about this before and how long this is going to continue, and the answer is it's going to keep on continuing because we're still seeing it. But for you, does Major League Baseball need to do something? There has been a conversation on changing the distance between the pitcher's mound and the hitter. There's even the maybe conversation that no one wants to have if these pitchers are doing something to the baseball that maybe helps get them this advantage. We are now beyond the steroid era. While there are still players doing that, we're beyond that era, but we are now in an era that it is so tilted the opposite way that it really seems like it's strikeout, home run, or nothing. And it's eliciting so many no-hitters that for me, it feels like the no-hitter is not being properly celebrated. It feels like there are so many no-hitters that it's just seeing ho-hum, that they're not as big of a deal because they happen every day and to average pitchers. Does Major League Baseball need to do something to answer this? And how long is this really going to continue? Because again, we are now approaching June with a record-setting amount of no-hitters seemingly every other day, and now a conversation if they actually need to have a catastrophic change to actually put a stop to this.
Yeah, so I feel the no-hitter, like to me, the no-hitter is still like incredibly impressive. However, I also think that it's a product, like how much we're seeing it is a product of what Major League Baseball like intentionally put in place. Does that make sense? Like, so Major League Baseball juiced the balls. Like, there's pretty clear evidence at this point.
Right.
They juiced the balls, and now they're like kind of trying to walk it back in half measures. However, it was like put in place for so long that everything else has changed to that, like to adjust to the original thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, so everyone's trying to hit home runs or strike out. Like it's home runs and strikeouts, right? Like it's
right.
a product of what they were trying to do. They wanted to capitalize on home strikeouts. They thought that was like the most marketable thing, like whatever. People would be most interested in that. Fine. Clearly it hasn't worked. And so, like, this is kind of a sidetrack on like the original question. But to me, like people worry about like the no hitters and the home runs and whatever, and like pace of play and all that. And like
Right.
that's fine, but like you're missing the part that is the most important, which is that like no one gets on base. Like no at bat feels more important than another one because nobody gets on base, nobody walks, whatever. It's just home runs, strikeouts, and I guess walks thrown in there. But nobody gets on base. There's no like doubles. There's no whatever. And this is hyperbole but there isn't. And so like everyone's just missing the point. Like everyone's upset about home runs or strikeouts or no hitters or whatever. And I'm with you. Like I agree that like there probably shouldn't be this many no hitters, but it's a byproduct of like what they've already tried to do in the past. Like that's kind of how I look at it, at least.
There shouldn't be this many no-hitters, or at least you wouldn't assume there to be this many no-hitters. Again, it's getting out of control, and I think it was out of control weeks ago, but now it's getting into really being out of control. But tip of the cap to Corey Kluber, again, 9 full innings, ends up with a no-hitter, 1 walk, 9 strikeouts, and over 100 pitches. So he had a great performance. Again, to make this clear, it is incredibly impressive to pitch a no-hitter in a Major League Baseball game, whether you're an average pitcher or you're a Hall of Famer. Doesn't matter if the balls are juiced. It doesn't matter what Major League Baseball is doing. That's freaking really, really impressive to get that done. But it's losing luster a little bit if someone would turn around and put up the identical performance tomorrow and then the next day and the next day after that. Whereas I feel like the national media, at least, they're no longer talking about it, even on baseball shows, where that would never have occurred in the 90s. A no-hitter would have been discussed ad nauseum. And I feel like it's almost just beating the fan down with it. It's almost, there are so many that it's hard to even convey how special they are. Oh, little 13-year-old, you're never going to see this again. Well, yes, I will, Daddy. I just saw it yesterday. I saw it a week ago. I'm probably going to see it 3 days from now. Like, it's hard to, I guess, convey the specialness that we were accustomed to growing up to when you see this many no-hitters and you see this many teams being no-hit also. It's shocking to have multiple teams be no-hit twice. Some teams don't get no-hit in 20 years, and we've seen some teams get no-hit twice in 2 months of baseball. Does Major League Baseball need to do anything, though, or is this just going to eventually run its course, even though it seems like the course has gone a lot longer than they may have expected?
Well, I think that like we lose track of because the no-hitter was so rare over so many years. We lose track of like it is still rare. Like it's still not like, super. Sure. I know that like happening multiple days in a row like will change that. But it's still not like common based on like how many games are played or whatever. It's not like it's like multiple games a night or all that.
Well, who knows if we aren't going to get there?
Yeah, we might. We very well might. We very well might. I mean, the Mariners are hitting like, and this kind of leads into my next point. Like, you talked about multiple teams getting no hit, twice in a year or whatever. Like the Mariners, I guess I don't know what they did tonight, but last night I know that like coming into tonight, the Mariners were hitting 199 as a team,
right?
Like under the Mendoza line as a team. Like that's a problem. It's not that they're getting no hit. It's not that Spencer Turnbull or who no hit them earlier this year. Do you remember?
I don't recall, but who was it?
Was it Plesac?
It might have been. I believe it might have been because I believe it was. I think it was. Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Okay, so or maybe he blew it, but whatever. Like
he was flirting with it at least. I actually recall that. That was actually not that long ago. That was less than a week ago, I believe.
Yeah, and so like even if he did or didn't, like honestly, if he didn't, like that'd be even more of an indictment because that's 2 and then a third that almost was. But
sure.
But you understand my point.
Yeah, and the Mariners didn't play tonight, but yeah, I get your point for sure.
Right. So coming in today, they're hitting 199, and I guess going into tomorrow as well.
Right.
like, I mean, that's the part that's absurd. That's like a larger baseball problem, is that there's a team out there who can be hitting 199 as a team, like everyone combined. Like that's where you like understand like how is this possible? That's because of what I talked about earlier. Like it comes down to like everyone's been focused on, we need to increase the like meme ability of baseball for some reason. It's like we need to have home runs, we need to have strikeouts, we need to have the big plays,
Right.
and you're missing out on like the reason that people like this game in general is because there's constant action over 3 hours. The reason that no one minded that it was ever 3 hours or however long it was because there was constant action. There's always something going on.
Yeah.
But now it's just like it's either a home run or a strikeout, and that's it. And it also still goes 3 hours, So I don't know. Like I feel like this is my like one old man rant that I like get like really upset about. It's just like I think that people are just missing the mark. Like everyone gets so upset about pace of play or like this two guys doing what.
Right.
We heard it all. This last weekend where everyone's like, "Oh, no one wants to watch when Twins pitcher is throwing at your mean Mercedes or whatever." Like people do want to watch that. People want the drama. And I'm not endorsing that anyone throws at each other, but people like when the players play, when they do what they were brought up to do.
Sure.
They don't like when the entire game goes by and there's, 54 outs or whatever, and 42 of them are either a strikeout or strikeout. Or you understand what I'm saying? Like, that's the part that I think people are, like, missing is that, like, it's not the players, it's not how they play, it's not whatever. It's just that everything is either all in or nothing. And it's all meant for like Twitter meme format or whatever.
Yeah.
And everyone's missing the point that like the in-game, the doubles, the like consequential at bats with 2 on, 2 outs or whatever. Like that's the part that people like enjoyed in the first place. Why are we just ditching that at all? So, like I said, I hate being like, ranting about whatever the state of baseball. I don't have all the answers. I'm not going to pretend like I have all the answers, but that is the part that like drives me crazy. I just feel like people are just missing the mark. I don't know.
I'm sure people are missing the mark. People miss the mark often, but yes.
Me too. I also miss the mark.
Yeah, so do I. Yes, and it's easy to miss the mark potentially when you have so many no-hitters going on. But Major League Baseball, I can't say it's a problem, but it's an oddity that I guess is occurring, and it does seem like it's feast or famine. And it's a bit weird of a season. You have so many no-hitters, and then one of the best hitters in baseball, who right now is MVP of the league, is a pitcher. So yeah. it is the pitcher year, whether it be Ohtani hitting dingers or pitchers in every other respect. I'm waiting for Ohtani to throw a no-hitter and the next day crank one. That would just be the greatest day ever. But if ever it's going to occur and he's going to hit a home run in a game, he's throwing a no-hitter, it would be this year with how weird this year has been and how many no-hitters we have seen so far. Mike Persak of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, Mike Asti here is. We're now going to get into the name of this show and cover this Pittsburgh Pirate game. It's an 8-5 loss to the St. Louis Cardinals. Cardinals top of the division. The Pirates certainly not. They've certainly tapered off from where they were weeks ago. Phil Evans hurt currently. Polanco able to get a couple hits, and he hits a dinger. He's actually not far removed from a 4-game hit streak, as insane as that sounds. But Trevor Cahill doesn't go far into this game, to say the very least, only going 1, allowing 4 runs off 2 hits, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts. Bad for him as well, and we'll get to Hayes here in a second. Has Gregory Polanco found something? Is he now going to be used differently? Are we seeing a new guy? Has he put some throwback machine water on his face and touched the wishing well and somehow made a deal with the devil that he can at least be respectable? He's certainly not a defensive player still, but with Evans being out and Hayes still not yet having returned, has Polanco crawled himself back into an everyday role? And is it possible to expect this enough that he actually could bring value at, say, the trade deadline?
So I still don't like really have an idea of like who else wants him. Like I don't know. Like, my thing with Gregory Blanco always has been like the Pittsburgh Pirates for sure value him more than any other team.
I guess, yeah.
If for no other reason that like they keep running him out there and they put all this work into him, like they signed him to a long-term extension, and I'm not even commenting on the extension. Like I don't necessarily think that it was a bad idea, given what everyone knew at the time, but like they've put in all this work forever, and even when Ben Cherington comes in, he's like, no, this guy's going to play every day. And Derek Shelton comes in, they say this guy's going to play every day, and like we think that he can break out, and like this stuff happens. Like he goes on like little hit streaks, he bumps his average up to a certain amount, but like it's going to have to last. Like he's going to have to be like 250 at the end of this month for me to say, it's real, right? Like there. Or that it's even worth considering that it's real, right?
Yeah,
like,
he's 231 right now. He's 231 right now.
Yeah. And he's been hitting well recently. Like,
yeah,
that's all you can really ask for. Like, I don't know. I just think to me, it's what I've always said is just that it's relatively low stakes because, and we saw Travis Swaggerty down at the AAA level. He's injured. And all that's to say is just that like there's no outfield prospect that's like banging on the door. It's like, they would be a for sure better option. Like people are just frustrated with watching Gregory Polanco struggle game in, game out. And like, if he keeps it up now with this 230 average, and it's funny that we're saying 230 as it's like a good thing or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, isn't that kind of funny? But
I mean, dare I say Polanco this past week has been the Pirates' best hitter. Dare I say it? As insane as that sounds.
I have been building up I don't think it's a rant, but building up a point that I want to make that I haven't had the courage to like step out and make.
I'm happy for you to do it here on the show.
I'm ready to make it.
Okay.
So Gregory Polanco has a much better average than Kevin Newman. He's been a better hitter this year, not just because of batting average, because of home runs, RBI, weighted runs created, whatever, however you want to put it. Like he has been a better hitter than Kevin Newman.
Sure.
And I'm sure that you could find stats where like Kevin Newman exceeds Gregory Blanco. Like I get it. I get that it's not completely congruous. However, like Kevin Newman doesn't get nearly like the trash that Gregory Blanco gets. Right?
No, not at all. No.
And I know there's a reason for that. Like Gregory Blanco's been here longer, and people have been putting up with this for longer. And I'm not going to pretend that it's like anything more than that. That people are just like sick of watching Gregory Blanco. However, if you watch this year, like no one's really that frustrated with Kevin Newman. And I'm not even saying that like Kevin Newman is a bad baseball player. It's just I don't know. It drives me crazy when it's like, I tweet out a lineup or whatever, and someone, I tweeted out where it's like, oh, Will Craig and Michael Perez is in there, Will Craig's batting cleanup, whatever, and someone will reply like, oh, sell Gregory Blanco. Like, what is this guy doing in the lineup? It's like, dude, do you see the rest of the lineup? Like, it's just not good. Like, it's just, it is what it is. It's not that it's Gregory Polanco's fault. He was the best hitter tonight. It's just not a good lineup. Like
Gregory Polanco again. Gregory Polanco 2 for 4 in this game, 3 RBI, hits a home run. Newman 2 for 5, drives nothing in, scores nothing. He's hitting 219 on the year. The only, I guess, if you get into that old school mentality of the difference of positions, Newman playing short, maybe not expected to do as much as an outfielder. And I also think Gregory Polanco flirting with an all-star type of season not long ago, maybe fans almost feel like he teased them. It almost feels like this is one player that could have been an all-star, that he did receive a second contract, which almost never occurs with the Pirates when you get to that level. And the one guy they paid and the one guy that could have been that all-star gets hurt and then never does it again. So fans might feel teased. Fans probably regret and wish that contract didn't occur and that he hasn't still been here, because if you're going to do this, then the principle of signing somebody isn't really enough of a benefit. They probably feel teased by him, whereas Newman's more of a newer guy. And I also do think that this season, puttering away, people have lost track of Reynolds, Frazier. They've had quality seasons, to say the very least. They have had good years that are certainly being overlooked. Pirates lose 8-5. Polanco hits in this game. You mentioned Will Craig, though, who's in this lineup now. Evans not there. Moran not there. Pirates are dealing with injuries galore. We'll get to Hayes here in a second and if he's going to return. But this is a bad lineup overall. This is a team that just doesn't have it offensively, although scored 5 in this game. So when you have this type of lineup and you score 5, you got to get more from the pitching. They have been getting more from starting pitching recently in really the last couple months, more than I would have thought all season, really, but certainly not from Trevor Cahill most of the year and not in this game. What have you seen from Craig? Is he going to continue to hit cleanup in this lineup, even while he's struggling immensely? I get Evans is out, and I get Evans isn't what he was earlier in the year either. He certainly was struggling before getting hurt, but Craig hitting 136, goes 0 for 3 in this game. I know they're young players and they got to see them, but how much does he move down in the order at some point? How long can he hit in an RBI spot and not even be able to get on base? Because this is Todd Frazier material right now, even though it's a much younger player, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're like more willing to weather the storm than they were Todd Frazier.
Right. It's a totally different scenario, sure.
Yeah, for sure. But you know what's crazy is like, I don't want to say that I feel bad for Will Craig, because I think that he is a competent, like he could be a fine player. Like he has the tools there and he believes in himself. And
okay.
I agree with, it's hard for me to say that this guy stinks in any player generally. However, like Will Craig has been here for a while now, right? Like he's been a first round pick that has worked his way up for a second now. And I don't think anyone's like banking on Will Craig to be the first baseman of the future, like I don't think anyone is considering that that's even a possibility. So, I think that Will Craig is what he is. He can find a pop every now and then. He can, if he gets his pitch and he swings on it and he hits it right, like he has the power. It's just, like when Phil Evans comes back, I think we're going to see.
Phil Evans hasn't been hitting, though. He wasn't hitting before getting hurt.
Right. And so, like, I think that will be a decision on, like, how much they believe in Will Craig is kind of what I'm saying. Because, like, Colin Moran goes back, you would imagine that Will Craig would stay in the roster when Colin Moran comes back.
Right.
And then when Phil Evans comes back, then what? Because now you have two backup kind of first base, I guess sort of backup first baseman. Like Phil Evans does more than that.
Yeah.
But like they could very well like DFA Craig or like option him or whatever.
I guess that's what I'm asking
like,
you. Do you think this team would give up on him? He is still a young guy. I think it's safe to say he's certainly not a cornerstone piece that maybe some hoped would be the case. He's not shown any flashes of being that, but with this year not really being about winning, do you almost just trot him out there and see what happens? And if he has a really, really bad year, then what's the difference?
Yeah, I guess like I'm not really sure. Like, they'll certainly like tell us what they do. Like they will show us, and that's kind of my point. Is like they'll show us in the near future. Like I don't even know what I would do. Like if I were in their spot, I'm not even really sure like what I would do, because like I said, like Will Craig's been around and like what he can do on a AAA level. Like he's hit generally at a AAA level,
right?
So like, but how old is he? Maybe you can look this up quicker than I can. He's 26, right? 26 or 27.
I will double check you right now, but I believe so.
Yeah. So
born in 94. Born in 94.
Yeah, which is not to say that he's like old beyond repair.
Right.
But like you would like to see a first round pick come along by then, I guess. And so, maybe it could be sort of a midway bridge piece between Colin Moran and Mason Martin, or one of the other young first basemen, or someone else that you would like to sign in free agency or whatever. But it's really hard to imagine him being like an everyday power hitting first baseman or whatever, because that's kind of like the ideal scenario for him. And like I hope that he proves
and
me
this
wrong.
is his opportunity.
He's a good
This
guy,
is
like,
it.
whatever. But
Yeah. This is his opportunity if he ever was going to show he could be that, and he's certainly not performing right now. This is it. This is an opportunity where he's going to stay in there when you have Moran and Evans both hurt, and right now he's not been getting it done. Mike Persak of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, Mike Asti here on Pittsburgh Sports Live. The Pirates lose to the Cardinals 8-5 on a night we see another no-hitter in Major League Baseball. The Pirates pitcher goes 1 inning. 4 runs off 2 hits, 2 walks, 2 Ks. Trevor Cahill, a veteran guy who used to be a solid piece for a good team. How much longer does this go? I mean, he had some flirtation with being okay for a while, but it's been most of the year of just honestly bad baseball from Trevor Cahill. It appears that maybe he's done career-wise. This is just these outings. Just I don't know how much longer they can continue. What's the story with Cahill? How much longer does he stay on this team? Because it doesn't appear like he's bringing any value back in any trade either. That might have been the hope that he could do something and bring something back. I don't see how he brings anything back by any means either. And the Pirates are probably running out of people to bring value back, which shockingly, Polanco might be that piece somehow or another, outside of some of those relievers, of course, outside the bullpen with Howard and Rodriguez. But how much longer does this Trevor Cahill fun continue with the Pirates?
Yeah, so he got hurt tonight. Like he came out with a calf injury. Like that's why he left that early.
I mean, it's pitching poorly too, but yeah, you're correct. Yeah.
Right. But he came out and they said, day-to-day calf injury,
right.
Whatever. And that fine. That's fine. Like these 1-year rentals, right? Like we even saw it last year, right? Where the Pirates picked up Gerard Dyson and who was the other? Oh, Derek Holland. It was Gerard Dyson, Derek Holland, like came and played for the Pirates for half a year or whatever. I guess Dyson left the trade deadline and Holland was there the whole year. And like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, it's such low stakes, right? Where you can throw, $1 million or $850,000 or however much these guys are making. You can throw them at these guys, and like maybe they turn into like a better pitcher. It's constructive. Like you pick guys that you think will, but if they don't, like it's low stakes. Like you leave at the end of the year, and it is what it is. They're off the cap, and you don't have to worry about Trevor Cahill forever.
No, and that seems to probably be the case here. And of course, his health will be a factor in when he pitches again, but he might actually mentally be in due of potentially skipping a start or so. I don't think that would necessarily be a bad thing for him to try to get his mind right, but a rough outing for him. He leaves the game with an injury, but a rough outing nonetheless, and certainly led to the Pirates' loss here in this game. Now, we got to get to this conversation because there's been some traction of news, some glimmer of news about Ke'Bryan Hayes. And honestly, it's still weird for me how Pirate fans have seemingly not been clamoring for Hayes news. Hayes has kind of left the conversation and just kind of gone away. He's not usually Pittsburgh fans are just beating down the door for news all the time of somebody who's star being hurt. Ke'Bryan Hayes, not the case, certainly out much longer than initially was expected. News now of going into a rehab stint, which means he shouldn't be too far away and should be at some point returning this season. What do you know about Ke'Bryan Hayes? What are your thoughts on this Ke'Bryan Hayes situation? Because it is incredibly lingered to this point. And are you in any way surprised that the Pirate fan base hasn't been, I guess, asking more about Hayes and there hasn't been more of a conversation about Hayes around Pittsburgh since the initial reports when he got hurt. Maybe they shouldn't have announced this, but was 10 days. That'll be it. He'll be back soon.
Right.
That appears to not have been accurate in any way, which maybe was cart before the horse. I know he got re-injured and re-aggravated things, but we're looking at 2 months later and he has yet to play and just looking at a rehab stint now.
Well, I guess the best way to go about this is like chronological, right? To answer your question is like, so he first got injured, right? And they were like, well, you know, it seems a little serious, but not too serious. Like, we'll work him back slowly.
Right.
And that was always the plan. And then he took a swing, and this is just kind of like the vibe I get from Todd Tomczyk, who is the director of sports medicine. He's like in charge of all of this, I guess, injury news, whatever. So basically, he seemed fine as they were building him up, and then he took a swing that was like nearly identical to the one that originally injured him in Chicago. And that hurt him again. Like, that re-aggravated the injury.
Right.
And so that was always my question for him or Ben Cherington or anyone who like felt required, I guess, to answer the question was like, how sure can you possibly be that he won't take the swing again? How do you balance against like, oh yeah, he feels good, but this rare type of swing will injure him again?
Yeah.
And I guess I don't know. To me, maybe I'm being like a fool, but to me, that was answered by them saying, okay, we're going to put him on the 60-day IL. Like, we're going to wait until he's for sure good. And we can run him through the minors and we can he's going out on a rehab assignment in the next few days, which would give him like 2 weeks of rehab work before he has to be back, or before, I guess, he can be back. So like, they are taking their time, and like, to me, that's okay, because, you know, like we've said, this team is currently constructed is not interested in winning right now. They're not trying to win a World Series. It is what it is. And so like, he can take his time, whatever. I think that everyone is kind of accepted that like, he will be back. It won't necessarily be like quickly, but he'll be back, and like, that's okay. You know, does that make sense?
No, it makes sense. And in any way, you do not want to rush Hayes, obviously. Even at the time of the injury, where there was still some thinking there was hope, and then a week or two later, the team was hitting without him, and then all of a sudden they're above 500. Even at that point, but certainly now that they're 17-25 and have been losing and the offense is struggling now, you still don't want to rush Hayes back. This year is not going to be a pennant-winning season. They knew that going in. It doesn't even make sense in terms of the trajectory of the rebuild to really care about this year wins and losses. It is about evaluating the talent and a part of the rebuild. And Ben Cherington knows Ke'Bryan Hayes is one of those few players that is going to be part of the future, that he is interested in having around for the future. So he's somebody that you want to preserve maybe more than anybody else. So I totally get not rushing him back. You definitely don't want to rush him back. But it leads one to wonder exactly what you asked. Is there a propensity that he can re-aggravate things easily? How would you avoid that? And there has to be a concern that the littlest thing or the littlest swing in a way could re-aggravate and go from 10 days to 2 months. So maybe they're being overly careful, and maybe if this was a pennant-winning team, we would have had this rehab stint occur 3 weeks ago and be at the end of it now. Those are questions that they may never be honest with. But as we stand now, it's just gone on so long. And maybe because obviously Steelers are dealing with the draft and rookie camp and getting into training camp, and the Penguins are in the midst of the playoffs, and they knew this season wasn't going to be a winner for the Pirates. Even the most optimistic fan knew that. Maybe that's why there's not as much of a wondering on what's going on with Hayes. But you know how Pittsburgh fans are. You know how Twitter is. It just seems an odd situation out of everything that's gone on this year to have this be re-aggravated, to have it been lingered, and have it not be something that has become this conversation on a daily basis. I feel like some casual fans might have forgot about the guy. So
yeah, right.
we'll see when he returns, and hopefully he's healthy, because he obviously is that piece you got to protect more than anything else. Now, Mike, as we round things out here, they will now go into a 4-game set with the Braves. Will Crow taking them out 0-2 on the year. Some rough outings there, as he's right now slated to take the Rock to open up that series. What should Pirate fans expect from him? And what do you kind of expect from this series outside of it being a tough one? Anything else that maybe you expect, and what should Pirate fans expect from Will Crow on the mound?
Well, I think that this could be like a big I don't know if test is the right word, like, because I don't want to make it seem like if he doesn't pitch well that all is lost for Will Crow. But
sure,
he's pitched pretty well this year. Like, he's been like a pretty solid like arm in terms of like a fifth guy in the rotation or fourth guy in the rotation, however you want to put it. And like, this is a great lineup. Like, this is a really good lineup.
Yeah.
The Braves have a very good lineup of guys who they could very well make the playoffs. They probably should make the playoffs in terms of like how they're viewing it.
Oh, I would say they should, based on entering into the season. I would say that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So like, if Will Crow can put up like good numbers in this start, then you start to think like, oh, okay, like maybe this Will Crow guy is like for real. Because when was the last time he pitched? Pitched against the Giants, right?
Yeah, so May 13th, 3 runs off 6 hits. I will say for Will Crow, unlike a lot of Pirate pitchers, which include Cahill tonight despite the injury and just a myriad of Pirate pitchers, he has gone deep into starts, which is not common for pitchers in this era, in this season. Whether he's winning or losing, he is going deep into starts, and he is 0-2 on the year, so he's not yet won. But 3 runs off 6 hits in his last start, 5 innings, 2 off 4, 6 innings, 3 off 3, 5 innings, 1 off 4, 4 innings, and then just a horrendous outing prior, and that's basically his season at this point. So his ERA is above 4. It's not like he's going to throw goose eggs out there, but he does pitch long into games. So it shouldn't be a Chad Kuhl scenario where an inning and a quarter, he's allowed 4 runs and the game's over. He does go deep into games. It seems like Shelton's letting him go deeper into pitch counts in his recent starts. He is allowing some runs, but there certainly have been worse outings. 5 strikeouts, 5 Ks, only 2 and 3. I guess his problem is he doesn't really strike out that many, does walk some, but he's gone deep into games.
Right, and like the projection for Will Crow was never like he was the second guy in that trade, even like for Josh Bell, right? Like the projection for Will Crow has never been like, oh, this guy's going to be your ace. Like it's always been
right.
You know, he's going to be if he reaches peak, he's going to be a part of the rotation. He's not like a swing and miss guy. He just has a feel for pitching type of thing. I think we've seen that. Like, I think just generally we've seen that. It's kind of, it's kind of like a poor man's Miguel Yajure. Does that make sense? Like,
okay.
And it sounds funny because like Miguel,
unless
Yajure
fans want
like
more out of Miguel Yajure,
right, and they want to see him more, right.
But
like it's kind of like it's a feel for pitching. He's not going to strike a lot of guys out. He's just like kind of grinding through starts, and like that can be valuable, like that can be if the Pirates were awesome and Will Crow was the 5th piece of the rotation and he was already doing what he's been doing, then no one would be complaining about Will Crow, right? So I think that, and all of that's to say, like, bring it back to my first point. Excuse me, sorry, belch. All of that is to bring it back to the first point of like, if you can get through this Braves lineup and throw a good game, like, okay, that like now you can start to turn your eye a little bit and say like, maybe this Will Crow is like something or other. Like he's pitched a little bit, whatever. I think that when Chad Kuhl comes back, he'll probably be the casualty because he still has options and he's still like relatively young.
Right.
But could be something depending on like how he does. Like it's all up to him, Like I don't know. That's a long-winded way of like saying that I think it's kind of up to him, and you just kind of have to keep watching and waiting and seeing what he does and whatever.
Yeah, and nobody really has the answers this year. So I just asked the questions for
Right.
fun. Nobody really has the nobody really has the answers this year. Nobody knows with this team, honestly, and a lot of it is a wait and see approach and see these individual guys. Yeah, he's pitched against the Giants, Cubs, Cardinals, Twins, and Cubs. So it's potentially fair to say this is the best lineup he's going to face this year. This potentially could be an important start for him, and he has pitched better recently than earlier in the season. 3 off 6 and 5 innings, 2 off 4 and 6. Those are outings that, again, for a guy like Will Crowe, you can't be mad at. That's perfectly fine if he can throw those up occasionally. We'll see if he throws it up again or it goes into what Trevor Cahill was on the verge of doing today before the injury, or what we've seen from some other Pirate pitchers against quality lineup. We'll also see what this Pirate offense can do, because they put up 5 in this game despite not winning this game. That offensive touch was a little bit more in this game than the Pirates have had in recent weeks. So maybe
it's a Gregory Polanco magic. Let me say it's a Gregory Polanco magic. That's all it is.
A very quiet 4-game history for Gregory Polanco that was disrupted by 1, and now he hits a bomb again. Gregory Polanco is something else that I think he's best. I think he actually, maybe you need to see a sports psychologist, because it seems like that when he is off the radar, he's the best. And when anyone's watching, he's the worst. That's my very lacking analysis.
I think at the very least, like a sports psychologist player, in terms of like, he makes the fans need to see a psychologist, because like he just when exactly what you're saying, like when everyone's watching, when everyone cares a lot, it's because he's hitting 195, and when everyone's like not caring or whatever, he comes back, he bounces back. He turned it on at the Cardinals.
He turned it on at the end of last year when everybody tuned out. Beginning of this year was god-awful baseball. Once the Steelers kick into the draft and rookie minicamp, Polanco's on. It's like he just – I don't know what it is. Maybe he needs to just be where no one's watching. But, yeah, he's become a wrestling villain for this team. He is a heel. Indirectly enough, which is very funny, because he was certainly a babyface early in his career. El Cafe has certainly turned heel.
And he's the nicest man in the world. Like,
he's nice guy. Yeah.
He is so, like, kind when you talk to him. And, I don't know. It's funny that, this like kind man who like barely speaks English and like is just trying his best has become like the villain for the Pirates. Like, it is what it is. It's just the Pirates kind of personified in a little way.
Yeah, it just was bound to happen for somebody that they actually do pay. It's just a fitting situation. It's just a fitting situation to occur. Mike, I absolutely appreciate the time. We'll definitely talk again, and at that point, we'll probably be discussing the 9th or 10th no-hitter this season in Major League Baseball. I'm sure it won't be from a Pirates pitcher, unless somehow Brubaker can get one done, because that would be one for the highlight reel this year, as they're going to somehow try to put that together this season. So who knows where we could be? That's some starts to circle when he's back in there. But Mike, I definitely appreciate it. Mike Persak of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette joining me again here on the Pirates edition of Pittsburgh Postgame here on Pittsburgh Sports Live. Great conversation as always. Polanco, he's been hitting recently. It's shocking to me too. I get it. But yeah, he's doing it under the radar, as Mike says, almost become that villain. He's become very polarizing. Hayes going to that rehab stint. We'll see when he returns. I'm surprised how there hasn't been more of a conversation, more of a clamoring for what's going on with him. But we go from a short stint to re-aggravating to out 2 months and 60-day. And clearly he's that piece to protect. So it's not a big deal he's not playing this year, but it's just concerning to re-aggravate it so easily, have it not discussed, not hear answers, and then all of a sudden he's out this long. Just surprised there hasn't been more talk about it, but maybe it's Penguins and Steelers that are covering that up for the Pirates in a way. Trevor Cahill getting hurt, but that might be a blessing in disguise, as he was pitching god-awful yet again. Who knows how long that can continue? What's really the benefit of a veteran pitching so bad? He's not going to bring you any value back. Who can they get value on this team back in a trade outside of the relievers and Howard and Rodriguez? Right now, it's probably nobody else. How much longer do you let Will Craig and those type of guys hang around the middle of your order, even as young as they are, and how you want to see them? when they're just hitting so poorly and they're doing nothing else? When will Pirate fans check in on Newman and realize he's also been struggling this year and maybe get on him a little bit too? All of that and more next time you catch a Pirates edition of Pittsburgh Postgame here on PSL. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. It's free to do so. I will definitely talk to Mike again. Always fun talking to Mike Persak of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. For my guest, Mike Persak of the PG, for all of us here at Pittsburgh Sports Live and throughout the Pittsburgh Sports Now family of networks, the Pirates now 17-25. They lose 8-5 in this game, losing the series to the Cardinals, going into a series of 4-game set against the Atlanta Braves, and Will Crowe takes the mound 0-2. So, as been the theme all year, we'll see. But it's not going to be easy. That's a rough lineup. You're going to get to see some stars out there, some maybe faces of Major League Baseball or players that should be faces of Major League Baseball against your Pittsburgh Pirates here coming up. And it is a Pittsburgh Pirate team that right now is trekking out there a rough lineup, to say the least.